What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 35 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined, as always, by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Chuy Plays.
Bye, goodbye.
What is up, gang? Welcome back. Got a big episode today. Big episode. We got some big news.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3 just today. In a thing that very, very rarely happens in this industry, had its release date moved up several months, over 2 months earlier. Crazy news.
I woke up to that. It was great.
What a way to start your day, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I will get into it. I'm really curious as to why they've done it, but we'll get into it after the plugs, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll talk all about that and more on this week's episode of Nintendo Noise, which is, of course, brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of April. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smokey Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we appreciate your support of this fine program. Thank you so much. Speaking of ways to show your support, even if you don't want to go support us on Patreon, where you can get a bunch of perks and goodies, you can get our extra weekly podcast, One More Thing, you can get early access to this show and the Flip Screen Games podcast. But if you say, you know what, I'm good, I don't need any of that shit, that's all right. There's a lot of other ways you can get involved. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe, wherever you get the show. Let people know that you enjoy the show and that you think they might like it too. And if you want to get involved with the community, you want to write into the show, you can find links to everywhere else we are all around the web over on flipscreen.games. Come join our Discord, write in to the show. Check out a live stream over on twitch.tv/flipscreengames. However you choose to get involved, we are happy to have you. So thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Nintendo Noise. Let's get into it, all right? We got a brand spanking new trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And of course, all the Xeno fans, very excited here, getting this early access news. Oh boy, I did a bad crap on this. I'm going to throw to Chuy, being the only Xenoblade fan on this podcast. He was playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, getting ready for this this new updated date as we were getting ready to go live. Chuy, you woke up to this news this morning. How are you feeling? Are you excited? How much more Xenoblade 2 do you have to play before you can get to this?
So much. I mean, okay. I was just looking. I'm playing Xenoblade 1 right now. Apparently there's like 17 chapters and then final boss thing. And every time I log into this game, it's like, where was I again? And so I found out where I left off. I just finished chapter 13, so I'm at chapter 14. I've got 4 of them left before that final boss. So I've decided to. I did get it on Switch, and I really want to play in HD, but I'm so far along on this crummy 3DS version that I think I'm just gonna power through that. And then, luckily, I can play like the DLC, the Future Connected DLC, without having beaten the game on Switch. So I'll do that.
You can at least take advantage of that.
Yeah. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I had made it through, like, the first chapter, I think, at least, maybe into the second or so. And so I never got too far in it before being just annoyed that it looked so crummy in handheld. And I was like, I can't play this in bed. This has to be a TV game. But I think at that time I was just so deep into Splatoon 2 still, because all of these games came out the same year. And they're going to come out the same year, maybe, I guess. But yeah, this is unprecedented. Anti-delay? What do you call this?
Yeah, like a negative delay.
Yeah, I love the idea that Monolith Soft is just like, yeah, no, we're good. We're so on top of our shit. You can ship it early. That's fine.
They're incredible.
No bugs.
Like, I don't understand how they can put these games out so consistently and like on time. I remember when when Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was announced for like winter 2017, I was like, all right, so this is definitely the game that's getting delayed. It came out no problem. whatsoever. And then they were totally on top of their DLC too, like all those plans and stuff. So I'm just like, how do they do that, but then also have the capacity to work on all of these other games with
Yeah, the
Nintendo?
fact that
Like,
they also like support on Zelda and stuff, it's like what like how are you so efficient? They're such a like
yeah,
it just seems like they're a very well managed studio. Like it's very they're putting their resources in the right place. They do a really good job of staying on task, and it's probably why they get asked to help out on other games, right? Is like if
yeah,
they're that organized and they're that on top of their game, it's like, oh, yeah, makes sense to
yeah.
ask them, right? Like they got a team of veteran talent that clearly knows how to ship a game, you know?
Yeah, they've nailed it every time, basically, and even like the abilities that they have to bring a game like Xenoblade Chronicles to a 3DS of all things, too. Like that on
Sure.
its own is just like, how do you even do that? But yeah,
So
I'm pumped.
they have 4 studios. I was looking this up, so I think that is probably how they're able to do it. They must have a lot of people. I can't find any numbers on how many people are working there, but they've got 2 studios in Tokyo, 1 in Shinagawa, and 1 in Kyoto. So they're kind of all over the place.
According to Wikipedia, as of 2021, 275 employees.
There's a lot of people working
Big
there.
team.
And
Mhm.
and they're a like a studio wholly owned by Nintendo. So I presume they don't need all of the overheads that necessarily a standalone company would need because they're just a first party studio under the Nintendo umbrella.
I
So
didn't
you don't
realize
have
Yeah.
they
like
were
all
a
of the corporate
Namco
structure.
studio originally.
Yeah, they
Yeah, it's
were
weird, isn't
like
it?
the
Yeah.
Xenogears stuff, and yeah, that all came out
And
as like
Xenosaga and
Namco.
everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that they were a Namco and then Namco Bandai studio.
Yeah, that's why
Didn't
I'm.
make it to the Bandai Namco era. They got out
Yeah, I
before
don't
that.
think so.
They have at least one game.
What, one Bandai
Xenosaga
Namco?
was
Not
Namco
Namco Bandai?
Bandai, and it looks like Super
Yeah,
Robot
but they
Tyson
swapped
OG
they swapped
Saga
the order
Endless
after, right?
Frontier was also Namco Bandai. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Steve?
Yeah, but what I mean is they didn't get to the era where they swapped the order around because it went Namco Bandai, Bandai Namco.
I see
Mhm.
what you're saying.
They
I
got
see
out
what you're
before
saying.
they got out before it switched over.
Why the fuck did they switch that? I don't think I ever
Weird.
clocked that before right now. Why is that a thing? Why did they do
It
that?
changed in the logo as well. I guess because they figure Bandai's more well known than Namco. I
And
Are
now
don't
they
know
have
they?
if they
that weird,
eroded the
boring
Namco brand.
logo too. It's
Yeah, it's the really, really boring logo that they've started rolling out now, like the corporate speech bubble logo. It's just
Yeah, the
like
red
no one
one.
likes that.
I like the orange one that they
Yeah.
like just stopped using.
Mm-hmm. That one's cute. I like that one. Everybody's going to boring logos though right now. It's fine.
This
But yeah, no.
this really bothers me. I have to figure this out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I'm pumped. I have a little group of friends who are just like really looking forward to it. They've liked the other Xenoblade games and stuff, and so a couple of them are like, "All right, I guess I got to start my replay sooner." And I was just like, "All right, I guess I've got to finally beat these games. I've gotten so far through at least one of them."
Anyone that had planned to go through the like definitive edition of Xenoblade 2, and the DLC in order to get ready for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in September has a very big challenge ahead of them now if they haven't started that. Because I was one of
Yeah.
those people that's just like, do I start them? Do I try them
No.
and get going? It's just like, no, there's no chance
Not
I'm
a
getting all of that
chance
done
in
by
hell.
July. No way.
Yeah.
The move, I
mean-
think the move is you start with 3 and hope that you get into
And then
it.
go backwards, yeah.
Yeah, because realistically, you're not beating both of those. You're not even going to beat one of those games before July. They're long
No.
as hell.
Yeah, well, it's possible. Like, I unfortunately get like too deep into things, and I just get into the side quests and all of that. So it takes me at least double the amount of time people typically spend.
I remember
on,
talking to
like,
you
a
about
story.
Fire Emblem.
Yeah. The way I play JRPGs just tends to like really stretch those hours to whatever is possible. But
So, like, regardless, like, how long to beat has just this main story of
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition of like 51.5 hours. If you want to do some extras, it's 80 hours, and if you're a completionist, it's 130. So you've got that plus Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then the DLC on top of that. So you're looking at least probably 150 hours, even if you're just doing like main story and a couple of side quests before you could get on to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's a lot of time. That's a big old time commitment.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the main story is listed as 64 hours, so it's even a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, they're very long games, and if you're like me and you just get distracted and into it, it's going to be a lot longer for you.
So now that we have this news, right, from September to just about the end of July, pretty, early move up. How are you feeling about that, Chuy? Are you excited that it's coming earlier? I guess also like the why of it is interesting, right? I know Steve, I believe, said on Discord, like we were talking with some of the community, like, oh, what does that mean for Splatoon?
Mm-hmm.
So how are you feeling about this?
Delayed. I really do think Splatoon's delayed at this point. I could even see that. I could see either they're swapping it, right? That Splatoon was going to be their summer game and that shifts to be their autumn game. Or maybe Advance Wars plays into it a little bit because obviously that got delayed. Where does that fall into the lineup? Are they going to make that the September game?
Yeah.
And Splatoon gets pushed to 2023 along with Breath of the Wild 2 at this point, and maybe that's another launch game on the next console. I don't know. It's really strange.
Splatoon
but obviously
3...
they've been sat on Xenoblade Chronicles 3 completed for a while. Like, if they're confident and comfortable that it can just be pushed out in July, they've probably had this in the bank for a few months at this point, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably just in that, like, bug squashing period, right? And are, like, satisfied enough with it that it's like, oh, yeah, we can move this up to cover a gap that was been left by Advance Wars. But, yeah, Splatoon, like, the fact that we haven't heard anything and, like, everybody was, like, thinking it was, like, that summer 2022 window.
Honestly,
we're getting close.
They did start tweeting about it a little bit more, at least like the official new Splatoon Twitter, right? I think it was just like last week, maybe a couple weeks ago, they started putting out just retread trailers and stuff. And this, I got the feeling that they were starting to ramp into that like social media marketing portion for Splatoon 3. So I was like, I don't think it's like delayed. I think it's just, I mean, maybe they swapped them, and technically we haven't gotten like a date, like a solid date for it. So who knows?
Which
Outside of like
it was
summer
2022,
window,
right?
Yeah. I think maybe they gave a summer window, but that could just be like us saying, "Oh yeah, this is totally a summer game."
I think
right?
you're right. I feel like they said summer 2022, but it also it's one of those things where I'm not sure how real that is or how much we've all just decided that's when it makes sense.
No,
right?
it is real. I'm on their Twitter account. February 10th. They announced summer 2022.
Yeah. So I mean, there's still that QR code. That Steve, you mentioned it again, like the August date that came up, which. I think I looked that up and I was like, that's not a Friday, so it's probably not that exact date, but it could still be August. But yeah, I don't know. With Splatoon 3, I get the feeling that they're still at a good point with it. They seem like they're ramping up the social media stuff, and then always Splatoon has been that type of game where they're like, it launches, there's a few stages, weapons, and then there's updates throughout the year, right? So I don't think that game has to be quite as far as along as like something like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 would have to be to release, but
yeah, like I think we got like 5 or 6 maps at the launch of Splatoon 2, if I remember correctly, and a couple of those were from the original Splatoon game, and then they just continued to add more and more weapons, more and more modes, more and more maps. It was great. It was awesome. I really appreciated it.
I'm sorry, real quick.
I could see though, before you get onto it, I could see the August thing being like a direct. If it's not on a Friday, it could be like a date for a Splatoon 3 direct where they're going to announce like a date and like show more of
the test fire.
Or the test fire.
Oh, that's a good call. That could definitely be. Yeah, maybe it's not launch, but that's when we're going to actually be able to get hands on it. I could see us having one of those things that Nintendo loves to do, where it's like, oh, we're gonna have a direct all about Splatoon 3, and we're gonna talk more about the minutia, and then being like, here's the dates for the test fire. They're this weekend. They're next weekend. Whatever.
And it's only usually about 4 weeks out from release then. So it could then be the September release if we're getting in August. The test fire, September's the release. It's not really a summer, I would consider summer, but I guess technically it is. I think the autumn solstice is September 21st or something. So in the Northern
Equinox.
Hemisphere, it's technically, I guess it's technically still summer.
Yeah, I think till the 20th or 21st of September, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, just real quick. In response to our tweet about the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 getting moved up, we just like a minute ago while we're recording got a tweet from Matt Murphy from the community who said the horror knowing I need to finish the first one in 3 months.
Yeah. Honestly, though, like I'd say this came at kind of a good time. Like I'm floating around between games right now, just going through the backlog because I beat Kirby. I was expecting to, from Kirby, go into Advance Wars, and now that date is undetermined, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I got a little gap here to fit some games in, so it's a good time, I'd say. But I also I guess Nintendo Switch Sports is the next thing around the corner. And then after that, there's not really anything for May. I was looking through and I was like, I could see like a month delay to Advance Wars, I guess, depending on how things go. But there's not really anything for May. And then a couple things in June with Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem Warriors, which I don't think I'll get Fire Emblem Warriors, but I'm definitely hyped for Mario Strikers.
Don't pay $60 for Fire Emblem Warriors. Don't do that.
On the
to yourself.
22nd of July, we've got Square Enix's Live Alive, and I just feel really sorry for Square Enix. They cannot catch a break when it comes to scheduling of their games lately. Like Triangle Strategy, seemingly a really great game, came out at a very bad time. I think we're going to have the exact same thing with Live Alive with Xenoblade.
They should have delayed Triangle Strategy. They should have put that out now. If that
really
game came out,
probably delay.
Yeah,
Live Alive.
Yeah, they should. I think if Triangle Strategy came out now, it would be all anyone was talking about.
I'd have it right now. Yeah, I would have grabbed it.
But it was like it got lost in the. It was like competing for oxygen with Elden Ring and Horizon. It's just like there's no space for you right now. There was barely enough room for Horizon next to Elden Ring, let alone another game that's more niche and slow and less flashy, right? Like it had no fucking chance.
Yeah, I'm still interested. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but
me too.
Unfortunately, it's just not a good time for it.
Yeah, it's like I don't have time for like a long, dense JRPG right now.
I heard it's not incredibly bad. I think like the main story for people has been around like 20 hours. But I think where people are really loving it is that like you can really tell how much things change depending on like what path you go.
Apparently,
the whole
main
triangle
story
comes into play.
Roughly 31 hours, according to how long it beat.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's a good time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe I'll
so
play
I
that
hear
over
a lot
the
of
summer.
people.
There's kind of a quiet period right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like maybe 2 sessions away from platinuming Horizon and being done with it. So
now it's quiet at the moment, but I'm looking at our lineup. I'm looking at the predictions that we did for the calendar, right? And there's still so many questions that we've got. When the hell's Mario Rabbids coming out? When's Bayonetta 3?
Delayed.
Those are 2 games that are confirmed that we have no idea when they come.
They're delayed.
Splatoon 3 doesn't have a date. We can say for certain that Pete's lost that one because he predicted July 29th, and that's when Xenoblade's coming out. So we know for a fact that Pete's not got that one. But both me and Chuy also picked a July date. Mine was July 22nd, and Chuy's was mine was July 15th. Chuy's was July 22nd. So I think we can all safely say that we wiped out on Splatoon 3. But I'm really curious as to what their lineup looks like. Like we know Pokemon's coming, and I think that's the other game that we've got like a definitive date on it. Well, we don't even have a definitive date. We just know it's coming later this year.
But yeah, but
I think Pokemon's coming.
But is
if
it?
They've announced that.
Arceus got delayed, right?
Localization. Yeah, you're right. But I feel like that was the first one in, I don't know, maybe I kind of feel that they learned a lot from Arceus, and they're
You're not
putting
wrong.
that work into this.
I don't know though. It's just like I don't feel confident in any game's release date right now. Just the way that things have gone. So many games have gotten pushed and
Or pulled.
and yeah, I don't know. It's just like
Man, it's ready though. Like, give me Advance Wars. I know somebody played it.
yeah.
We all know.
Yeah, I think you got to put that out sooner or later.
Hmm.
I don't
And where's like the Metroid Prime stuff that's apparently been cooked? We're about to talk about the other stuff that's seemingly ready to go.
they're
with
sitting on a
Switch
lot
Online.
right now, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what actually makes it across the finish line this year cuz like it's kind of weird that we're this far into the year and we don't have any idea.
I mean, I don't know how weird it is, because it is like the games we do know about slash have already gotten on time are kind of the pre E3 season games. And I feel
Sure.
like they tend to roadmap it for us quite a bit, where it's like September, we get kind of a look at what the next year is going to look like, right? And then February rolls around, we get a little bit more definitive stuff as far as dates go with that direct. And then usually around E3 time, I think they give us more of the map of like, here's the rest of the year and what to expect. So I don't know. I think this is kind of like typical to Nintendo's news style. And then like a lot this year though, I'd say is strange in the sense of like we've kind of gotten some bigger things compared to previous years at for spring. Um, I think a lot of Nintendo's like bigger games have been like backloaded in the year, where the last half of
Yeah.
the year is like, here's all the big stuff that you're gonna get, and
With
it
Zelda
feels
kind
like
of being the lone exception there.
yeah, it goes kind of like 0 to 100 as that year crosses into the second half. So
Yeah, I mean, like
I don't know.
2018 was like that, right? Like it was like there was basically nothing the first half, and then it's like Fire Emblem, and then like however many weeks later is like Pokemon Sword and Shield dropped. You know?
Yeah. I'm looking at 2018, and then it was like kind of nothing in August and September, I guess. But then we had Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go, and then Smash Ultimate.
Yeah,
So
Smash was the huge one, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, so
Oh, that was
so-
2018. I
That's
guess I'm thinking of
Pokemon.
2019 then, right?
yeah,
Fire Emblem?
2019 was definitely like smaller things. It was the Labo VR, Yoshi, Tetris 99.
2019 was like the drought. It was like a real like mid-gen lull. It felt
Mhm.
like.
Especially for you, huh?
Yeah. And then the second half of 2019, July, Fire Emblem, August, Astral Chain, September, Link's Awakening, October, Luigi's Mansion 3,
I
and Ring
forgot those were all in
Fit,
that window.
November,
Yeah, that's a huge
Pokemon
year.
Sword and Shield. And so, yeah, like I feel like the back half of Nintendo's lineup in at least the Switch era has just been so heavy with things. So I don't know.
I guess that makes sense. You know, I know they sell a lot of consoles around the holidays, so having those big
Mhm.
releases in those like kind of like traditional tentpole windows does make a lot of sense for them.
Yeah. So right now, I'm just wondering like when that next direct is going to happen, especially like after the official E3 cancellation. You know, it seems like companies are going to have their a little bit of leeway with whenever they do their digital thing.
I could see them jumping on with Jeff's stuff, right? They've traditionally had a good relationship with him at the Game Awards. I could
True.
see them joining in with the Summer Game Fest that Jeff's putting on. And I could absolutely see them doing some announcements around that time. I feel like everyone still wants to be announcing stuff in that summer window, that like 2 week period that E3 usually went through. But we'll have to see. Like Nintendo might just be like, nope, we're done. We're just carrying on doing our own thing. Because like
Hmm.
we just got an announcement of a game completely changing its scheduling on Twitter. Like that's how they dropped it. That's how they decided to drop the news rather than any kind of formal presentation or anything like that.
The same
So
thing
you
with
never
the
know
delay
them.
for Breath of the Wild, right? They did the same thing with the Metroid
Yeah.
thing, where it's just like, oh, it's just like a YouTube video. kind of out of context. But I think you're probably right.
And I kind of get it for the delays, right? It makes
Yeah.
sense because you don't want to, because you've got nothing else to announce. Like if it was a delay, but to tide you over, here's Wind Waker or here's Twilight Princess, I could understand that. But to just like do a presentation, everyone tunes in expecting some really good news, and it's like, oh, it's not coming till next year now, guys. Sorry. It's people would have been very unhappy.
I think to your point though, Steve, I do think there's probably a pretty good chance that you see something from Nintendo, like some kind of presentation during like the Summer Games Fest, or even like maybe a highlight at one of Jeff's events, because Jeff clearly has a good relationship with Nintendo. Nintendo's done a lot of reveals at the Game Awards or other like similar events that Jeff was a part of. So yeah, I mean, even if we don't get like a proper E3 Direct or whatever, I have to imagine they're going to want to do something. They have so much to talk about right now, and we're I wouldn't say in the dark, but there's a lot of question marks about a lot of these games. Like,
I feel like we know the games, we just don't know like when they're coming.
And they do have a few teams that are working on stuff that we don't know what it is. Like we had that rumor about like the EAD team that they developed to make like that Donkey Kong title. We haven't, we don't even know if that's real. There
was also that rumor the other week from the job listing at Bandai Namco, where it was like hiring specifically for a Nintendo contract. They're like Bandai Namco supporting Nintendo on something.
Yeah.
So obviously not Metroid Prime. So there's obviously some kind of other project that they're working on.
Yeah, I mean that's like we know that they have things that are in. Grezzo's working on that new game. Like we have a lot of stuff that like we don't know what it is, but we know it's in progress as well. So, they've got a lot going on right now. Despite the fact that I feel like I could see why a fan would be like, oh, like kind of a quiet year so far, like what's going on? But it's like
it's one of those years, like if you're into the games and they're big chunky games, and if you're into them, it's a great year for you. It was like that year Animal Crossing came out. If you weren't into Animal Crossing, you had nothing for most of the year. It was like dead silence. And I feel like that's going to be the case here. If you're not into Kirby, you're not into Xenoblade, well, come back later, I guess. Like maybe you'll be into Pokemon later in the year because Breath of the Wild's not coming this year. Sorry. And I think that's just par for the course. You can't always please everyone, and I think that's fine.
I mean, I think it's also funny, like Legends Arceus came out this year, right? Like that feels like forever ago now, but like that was a big game. That started the year off. That was like the first big release of the year.
Dude, I dropped 105 hours on that game, and I still feel like I haven't played it in ages. It's probably been just like a month.
Yeah. So, anyway, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 coming in July.
Yeah, crazy.
Get hype. Get started on that playthrough right now if you're trying to finish it. Shout out to you, Murphy. Hope you get it done. So let's move into our main topic this week. We had a big old Nintendo leak again. It feels like we have one of these more than we have directs these days, but I'll take it. We had the news, quote unquote, that Game Boy and Game Boy Advance emulators are well underway over at Nintendo, with some folks even being able to get their hands on them and play them. I'm going to kick it to Steve because you've been following this real closely. You pulled all the sources. Parse the tech language for the uninitiated.
So we had a big old leak. Someone dumped a couple of ROMs over on 4chan, which you can download if you want to try them yourself on a hacked Switch to verify it. And obviously the legitimacy is still up in the air. There's like references to easy flashcards and stuff in the actual like screenshots. So whether you believe that this is a Nintendo produced emulator or not is up to you. But from my eyes, having looked through it, having dug through it, having found commit files and messages, so they use a system called Git, which is a version control. So whenever one programmer will be finished doing something, they'll write a message, they'll commit it, it'll say who made the changes and submit that. Those files were left in the ROMs, and there's like references to Nintendo Europe R&D, Panasonic Vietnam is supposedly helping on these emulators. So there's two emulators. One is codenamed Hyoko, which we have heard about from years ago from Oatmeal Dome, a data miner, that they had found references to this in the NES and SNES emulators. And then the GBA emulator is codenamed Sloop. And the GBA emulator seems to be pretty far along. They've tested it with a bunch of games, and seemingly completely playable. And this is a leak from the build seems to be from January 2020. So over 2 years ago now. And I think at this point, it's safe to say that this is probably completed, or at the very least in the final stages of testing. And you'll remember last year it was Nate Drake that leaked the story that the N64 stuff and the Game Boy stuff was coming to Nintendo Switch Online. And he's posted a couple of messages on Reset Era, just like relating to the Game Boy Color, and GBA emulators. So his first one was, but people told me I lied about that. And to be clear, Game Boy and Game Boy Color was done testing last year. Game Boy Advance had not entered that phase, but Game Boy Advance could have been an active project since the original information. Game Boy Color and Game Boy Color finished testing in early 2021. They were ready for release over a year ago, even ahead of N64 and Genesis. Nintendo sat on them. At the time, GBA simply wasn't at that stage of internal testing. So it seems to me, from what he's saying, that they kind of want to release them all together, and because GBA wasn't ready, that they put a pin in the Game Boy and Game Boy Color stuff.
That
but
seems so weird.
who knows?
I think it makes sense though, because like they're all, I don't know, I always lump the Game Boy name kind of together in some way. And when you look back to all of those consoles too, like the GBA, you could play everything on that. You could plug in any cartridge that existed for the Game Boy
Sure.
and just be able. I think there was like one or two that had some weird things
Road
that you
Rash
couldn't.
didn't write.
Yeah.
It's just,
But outside of that, like they're all so connected that I feel like this makes sense to me.
I get what you mean, but it still feels like a weird choice to me with like the way that when you think about how they rolled out NES and then Super Nintendo, and like they were spread out a decent amount. Like if Game Boy Color was ready, why not? Like, especially considering the N64 was clearly not, right? Like it was messy.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just put out Game Boy Color first and then
right?
come with Advance a year later or something? Like,
Yeah.
And it's also weird, and you know, I'm certainly not a developer, so you know, grain of salt. But it's weird to me that you would develop a Game Boy and a Game Boy Advance emulator, because a Game Boy Advance emulator,
they're two very different pieces of hardware. The GBA, I believe, had like a little physical switch that put the console into like Game Boy mode when you slide a cartridge in.
Okay.
And it used a totally different chip in order to do it. So the back of the cartridge, there's like a slot down one half of the Game Boy Advance card that isn't on a Game Boy card. So if you put a Game Boy card in, it pushes that physical switch in and boots it into like Game Boy mode. So it's actually using original Game Boy hardware. So the emulators would need to be separate because they're just completely different chips, completely different
that
hardware.
makes sense.
However, they could be bundled together into one app. Like it might be a Game Boy emulator, like just branded Game Boy. It plays everything.
Right.
But the current state of affairs is there's two different apps. One's called Sloop, one's called Hyoko, and they have different ROMs and they've tested them. And on the builds that have leaked, there's very few ROMs that seemingly have booted in Hyoko, which Nate Drake says is the one that's complete, versus Sloop. So I'm guessing that these builds are very old of Hyoko and they're not the latest up-to-date ones, because I 100% believe what Nate Drake has said. He was bang on the money with the N64 and the Mega Drive stuff.
If you look at Oatmeal Dome's original tweet about Hyoko, it says the Game Boy emulator is very, very early in dev, blah blah blah. But then the follow-up tweet says the SDK used is also very old, version 6.4.0, circa 2018, indicating that this is a really old build. So actually even older than that 2020 date. So yeah, theoretically, that could be why there's only a few that are testable, and like it's just the version of the SDK that was dumped. you know?
Yeah, so it's worth stating that these seem to have been dumped from a QA tester's console, and there's footage from that QA tester's console that was posted on Twitter that's since been taken down by Nintendo.
I'm
Um,
gonna try to play some of it for folks.
okay.
We'll see how that works.
So to me it's kind of confirmation whenever Nintendo takes something down that it's real. I don't know how you two feel about that, but it's just like if it got taken down pretty sharpish as soon as Nintendo Live posted about it, it's probably legit.
Okay, so this is not the best way to see this video. So if you want to go see it, go check out the leaks and rumors tab of our Discord. But you can see the video playing now on YouTube, if you are so inclined.
But the one thing that fascinates me is something that you touched on, Pete. That the N64 clearly wasn't ready, right? There was stuff there was flaws in it. We knew the like water temple in Zelda, for example, didn't work. There was issues with Super Mario Kart. Mario Kart 64. You get the QA stuff on this, like there's screenshots of it showing you how to get the ROM, dump it to an SD card on your QA tester
Device.
QA tester Switch, and then take that flash card, the easy flash card that Nintendo sued into oblivion, and put it in real hardware to test that it performs in the exact same way on real hardware versus the emulator. And I think that's the one thing that people are pointing to is just like, oh, this isn't real because there's no way Nintendo would use these easy flash cards. But I don't know about that. I could see that just like some small development team, especially if Panasonic Vietnam's supporting them and helping them out, would absolutely just be like, yeah, just try this, dump it on that, and put it in a real system.
So what do we think about this? Like, I'm inclined to agree, Steve. I think that this seems like a where there's smoke, there's fire thing. What do we think the timeline on this is? Like, do you think this is a thing you could see maybe
This
in that
is
E3
September
presentation near the end of the year when everybody's Switch Online's about to be up? What do we think?
It's the Switch Online renewal. That's exactly what it is. It's like, oh, your Switch Online expansion pack is up for renewal. Here's all the Game Boy stuff. And here's all the Game Boy games that you know and love. Apart from Pokemon, because not a single one of those has been tested on this, and I don't think they're coming. But
unacceptable.
Here's
literally unacceptable.
I think I said September on our bets, so I'm going for that as well.
You did say September. I said February 21st, so I'm out. Pete said October 14th, so September, October for you too. I don't know why I was so bullish on the Game Boy coming early in the year.
I don't know.
Well,
dude.
it's because it's been ready since 2018, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, do we think that the reason they sat on it so long is just because of the GBA thing, like that they want to launch them both at the same time?
Yeah, I do. I think it's the GBA because just launching the Game Boy and Game Boy Color doesn't seem like enough. They're basically one in the same system. There's very few Game Boy Color exclusive games, and
there's still a deep library though. There's a lot of Game Boy games.
But it doesn't feel like enough to make that a premium product, right? We've got SNES and NES as part of the free plan. I could see them putting Game Boy Color in the free, like not free plan, in the like base plan. Along with SNES and NES.
Oh, yeah.
And to get Game Boy Advance, you've got to pay for the expansion pack, and that gets bundled up with the N64 stuff because they're like slightly, more advanced games.
Sure. Yeah, that could be. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and it does give me kind of like the, when it launched, we got NES, SNES stuff, and I don't know, Game Boy Color kind of fits together in that same way, if not even better, because they are very similar in what they did and had.
So I think I did want to shout out 2 episodes that we've done in the past. If you want to go hear our kind of thoughts on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance. We did a Game Boy episode. It was the 5th episode of Nintendo Noise. And then just a couple weeks ago, we did number 31 was all about the GBA. So if you want to hear some of our thoughts on those libraries and some of our favorite games and all that kind of stuff, definitely go check out that conversation there. But we did get somebody who wrote in here. This one comes from one of our Patreon producers, Wakahula, who said, "There's so many top tier games on GBA, I don't even know where to start. But if I were to pick 3, those would be Golden Sun, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and F-Zero Maximum Velocity."
So the good news is all of those
Are
in
on the list
of tested games that appear in the ROM folder. I don't know if you want to go through all of them, but I was very happy to see Wario Land 4 and Minish Cap in there. Those two, I think, for me, are the standouts that I'm looking forward to.
I think we can go through them real quick.
Come.
A lot of the games that we've called out are on the list. There are some very notable omissions. Again, all of the mainline Pokemon games being missing is a weird one. But there is also mention in some of the documents about how the Game Boys like emulate link cables and stuff like that, and I can't imagine they would have went through the trouble of making that.
Well, they tested Pokemon Pinball, and they also tested the Mystery Dungeon game.
Yeah, so spin-offs.
Awesome.
The GBA one was Red Rescue Team. But so anyway, the Game Boy games that have been found to be playable so far, and again, this is on that old 2018 build, so grain of salt. Super Mario Land, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Quicks, and Tetris. That makes sense. 3 of those are the most popular games on the Game Boy. You'd want those at launch, you would imagine. And then the GBA games that were found in the Sloop app were Astro Boy, Omega Forever, Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, Drill Dozer, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones, Game & Watch Gallery 4, shout out to that, Golden Sun, Golden Sun The Lost Age, Gunstar Superheroes, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Kuro Kuro Kurin, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Mario Golf Advance Tour, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario Tennis Power Tour, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Mega Man Battle Network 2, Mega Man 03, Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, Mr. Driller 2, Ninja 5-0, Pokemon Pinball, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Robot Tyson, Original Generation, Tactics Ogre, The Knight of Lotus, Wario Land 4, WarioWare Inc., Minigame Mania, Super Mario Advance 3, Yoshi's Island, and The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap. And then there are references to a few other games, which are Car Battler Joe, Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Choo Choo Rocket, Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Koro Koro Puzzle, Happy Panechu? Paneku?
I think it's Panichu.
Panichu. Lufia, The Ruins of Lore, Mario Party Advance, Mega Man Battle Network 5, Team Proto Man, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team. So quite a list there. There are some really obscure games on there, like the Astro Boy Omega Factor is like, really? Like, it's just like a random license.
Car Battler Joe. Has anyone heard of that game?
No. Car Battler Joe. No idea. I'm not familiar. Is he anything like Action Man, Steve? That's my question.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. For me, I'm happy with this list. We've got basically a bunch of the first party games that were on our list are in here. Yeah. How do you feel about Kirby not being Nightmare in Dreamland?
I would prefer Nightmare in Dreamland, that's for sure.
Amazing Mirror is still great, though.
Yeah, it is. No
it's
disrespect.
Solid. Yeah.
Good game. But I think you look at this and like there's interesting omissions, right? Like that's not there. They have Super Mario Advance 4 and 3, but not 1 and 2. That's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is just what was in there and references to the files haven't been there before. I would imagine that all of the Super Mario Advances have been tested. Probably at this point, they've wanted to test the entire library to see if it can support the majority of it. I'm like I said, I'll be over the moon if I can play Wario Land 4 on a handheld console again.
Yeah, and then the cool things too is like finally a Harvest Moon, right? Like
Friends of Mineral Town, it's the best one. Let's go.
I think there's also more Friends of Mineral Town, right? The follow up to that where you play as the female lead instead of
is it just called More Friends?
I think it's More Friends of Mineral Town, right?
I think
that'd
that's
be cool
right.
to add. But yeah, and then also like the Metroid games, we were just talking about how like how can we not play Fusion, and I guess Zero Missions, like the remake of the original, which I hear like just play this one instead. So yeah, I mean that's almost all the Metroid games making it to the Switch. So
And if
that's a huge
Samus
deal.
Returns comes to the Game Boy
Uh-huh.
emulator, which I imagine it will, then you've got that one as well. So they're gonna have the majority of Metroid on here at some point, which is good. It's nice to actually have some decent lineage all the way through, so you can experience the previous games if you did jump in on Metroid Dread.
Yeah. And then with this list too, like now that we are seeing at least some reference to like Pokemon spin-offs in some way, I'm just like, please let this mean we're getting the Stadium games on the N64 app because I need that to happen.
I also
Yeah.
just really want them to
The
just
main
bring
lines.
the original games. You
No,
know, like
they'll charge you for those.
They are. Now that I don't see them here, I'm just like,
But-
they're just gonna like make a collection.
But like
It's
the thing is, I'd be fine with that if they would just fucking
Yeah.
do it. Just do it. Like, I don't care if it's on the dumbass app, if it's on the virtual console, if it's on the just put the fucking games out, Nintendo.
They will, and they'll be chibi style, and you've got to buy them each.
That's
of them
not what
at
I
$60
want.
a
That's
piece.
not
That's
the
what they're
same
gonna do.
thing, Steve. I don't want a remake. I want a port. And I want all the original jank. Okay? Just give me the games. You already put them on 3DS. Just
I mean, maybe they already see Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee as here you go, you got your yellow version, and then they're gonna make Let's Go
They hate me.
Togepi and Elekid.
They hate
Or
me.
Pichu, I mean.
That's fine. Make that too. I
Pretend
want
to.
both. Stop fucking with me. Just give me every version. This is ridiculous. I want to give you money for stuff. Instead, I gotta buy a Steam Deck. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You know they run on anything. Like they will run on your Vita. They will run on your phone. They'll
Yeah,
run
I
on
have
like
them
a
on my
calculator.
phone. I
if you want to.
know, Steve. I've beaten the games on my phone before. It's fine. I want them on a
You
real.
want an official way to
Yeah.
play it, which I totally get. I totally
And
understand. 'Cause
and
that's
I
what
want the
want.
functionality. I want to be able to like transfer those Pokemon over to newer games. I want to be able to trade. You know, like I want it to be legit. I can
I
already
mean-
run emulators. I've been doing that since I was 11. All right, let's official release. Come on.
Yeah.
So
Could be cool.
any closing thoughts here? Because but the bottom line for me is this can't come soon enough. I love the Game Boy, love the Game Boy Advance. I just want access to more of Nintendo's retro library. Period. You know.
I'm really curious as to if some of the hardware editions get included. Right, there was a lot of stuff that the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance did. We had the tilt stuff. We had the e-reader stuff. I'd love to see if we can play like Mario Party E on this and at scans like virtually scan cards and stuff. There's the
Mhm.
link cable stuff, and there are references to random matchmaking with some games. So like you can just randomly play with someone across the world, and obviously emulating link cables with friends if you want to like trade in Pokemon and things like that. What else was there that was like random hardware quirks and things that they
The
used to stuff in those?
N64 transfer pack.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool if you could transfer over to the N64.
When they give us
N64
Pokemon
transfer
Stadium,
pack.
you have the ability to pull your Pokemon from the Game Boy ROM
Uh-huh.
into
Mhm.
that would be the thing.
Yeah.
That would be the thing.
And we just saw Mario Golf has like these extra slots of characters that only come from the Mario Golf on Game Boy Advance. Like you had to connect the transfer pack to get those. Or was it the Game Boy one? I forget which one. But yeah, it was basically like they've kind of implemented this in the newer games where you have like the story mode RPG thing where you gain your stats and build your character and stuff. But in that one specifically, like you got them from your Game Boy and transferred them over to the N64. So
There was
yeah,
also
they need to pull that off.
the printer and the camera.
Oh, the camera, and
yeah.
the printer, yeah.
I would
Yeah,
love
that would be really cool.
That would be like the dumbest thing, but I would love if they put a Game Boy camera ROM so you could take like those crazy low poly pictures. That would be so
Yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
They need to make like a printer attachment though, but I bet that would sell like hotcakes if they popped that out as like a limited edition thing, like the NES Minis.
Even if you didn't have a physical printer, you could have it where
You share them on Twitter or whatever.
yeah, like it creates a QR code or something, and you can
Hmm.
you can print it on a regular printer or something.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of came, they have that like Instax one, right? That came out
They
around
do,
Pokemon
yeah.
Snap. Yeah. So, I don't know. They've been playing with that stuff a little bit. At least Pokemon has.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And I think it works with other games too. I think people got them to print out their Animal Crossing pictures too.
I think
So,
you can just print anything from it and just scan the QR code when you do like share to phone, and it then
yeah.
shows up in the app as well, which is really cool.
But everybody wants the little Pikachu shell one. That one's cuter.
I mean, yeah, can't blame them on that one.
It's always sold out. It sells out in seconds.
I remember almost buying that at the time, and
Me too.
I regret it. I regret not getting it.
I kind of do, but at the same time, like,
I don't
just
need
get
it.
the regular one.
I have the regular one and it worked fine, and I was just like, I don't have any desire to print these pictures out. I just use it we use our Instax printer. Anyone that comes over to our house, we like have a picture, they go on like our walls, like a visitor's wall, and like it goes up there, like
Oh, that's
memories
cute.
and things.
Fun.
I miss instant cameras. It's the thing I've
They're
been wanting to
great.
get back
They're
into
great.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Polaroid made a bunch of like retro style ones that are really, really nice.
Yeah.
One of these days. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. If you want to write in with your thoughts about the Game Boy Advance news, your thoughts on Xenoblade Chronicles 3 coming early, or anything else, make sure you hit us up at questions@flipscreen.games. Head over to flipscreen.games, our website, where you can find links to the Discord, the Twitch channel, the Patreon, all the places we are that you can show your support. You'll find a link to them there on flipscreen.games. Thank you again for tuning in. Go show your support however you choose. And for Chuy and Steve, I've been Pete. We'll catch you next week for another episode of Nintendo Noise.